Hi there, Chris from TotallyEV, and here I'm doing a dedicated audio review of the Subaru Solterra. If you want a dedicated review of the vehicle itself, do check it up on your pop-up banner, down in the description below, or indeed in the pinned comments. Now to kick off, I do have to talk about its audio configuration, which is a little bit confusing, because first off, you've got the limited trim, which gives you a 6-speaker configuration. However, if you move over to the touring spec, which is on review, you'll have an 8-speaker system, although it's listed with subwoofer, so an 8+1 audio system with Harman Kardon. Now, this actually moves over to an 11+1 audio system in certain markets. Indeed, over here, for example, in Japan, you've got an 11+1 Harman Kardon audio system, while in the UK, you've got an 8+1 audio configuration. I can't really comment as to how it would be in the European markets or, for example, in the US or other, but it's just something worth considering. Now, in terms of the overall audio configuration and the wattage, that's not actually been provided by the manufacturer. However, I have got some information of the Japanese spec of the Harman Kardon audio system, and here at the front by the dashboard, you have got 80mm mid-range combined with a 16mm tweeter. You've then got 8x9-inch bass drivers found within each of the front doors. At the rear, you've got 170mm drivers combined with 25mm tweeters, and you've got a 224mm subwoofer in the boot. All of this combines with an 800-watt 8-channel amplifier. Now, one can only imagine that the 8-speaker plus 1 configuration that's found in the UK, and indeed the one that's on review, omits the tweeters or indeed the mid-range drivers that are found towards the front. Now, again, I will confirm this if the manufacturer comes back to me, and I'll pop it down in the description below or indeed in the written review. So make sure you check that out for any further updates. But at the time of filming, I don't have any extra details. Now, nonetheless, if you do want to tinker around with the audio drivers, you want to navigate on the 12.3-inch infotainment system. This can actually be found in the source menu, and when you go on this and you click on the 3 little dots on the right-hand side, you'll be able to find your EQ, which does seem a little bit confusing because it should be positioned in the sound tab when you go into the settings. Nonetheless, over here, I've added 2 notches to treble, 1 notch to mid-range, and 1 notch to bass. Now, we'll be talking about certain these settings further down in this video, and also in terms of the fader and also the balance, which does actually come into effect in this vehicle. Now, in terms of for you to connect up to the infotainment system, you have got wireless Apple CarPlay and wired Android Auto, at least at the time of filming, which this might change in the future with a future firmware update, potentially bring wireless connection to Android Auto. And then you've also got Bluetooth, where surprisingly, you've got the SBC, AAC, and the LDAC codec, which is actually quite rare. Indeed, for those of us on Android, the LDAC codec is the highest quality that you can achieve over a wireless transmission, and therefore is actually quite impressive to see it fitted in the Solterra. So kudos where it's actually due. Now, what's similarly impressive is the overall cabin noise, which has actually been kept down to a minimum, specifically for a vehicle that's actually aimed for off-roading. In this respect, you'll be able to see the objective measurements that were recorded within the cabin via a sound meter. What I will say subjectively is that even on the 20-inch alloys, the road noise is kept down to a minimum, and that there is a little bit of wind that is heard deflecting off the pretty large-sized wing mirrors. Still, in the grander scheme of things, I've got no complaints in this department, and Subaru should really be impressed as to what they've been able to deliver. Now, past all of this, let's get onto a sound demo. I'll be placing the camera and microphone in 4 separate locations and playing back a track. It's from Priya J, and it's titled Like Me.
You can't
Now, I appreciate an audio demo over YouTube is never ideal, so let me get onto my subjective opinion. Now, first off, in terms of the sub-bass extension, it is certainly there, and that's due to the fact that you have got a dedicated subwoofer unit that is found in the boot. Now, this does actually deliver good lower echelons of those bass tones. However, in comparison to some of the more premium audio systems out there, it doesn't quite compete, and therefore feels a little bit cut short in certain songs. Still, the overall mid-bass impact is actually done to perfection. I really loved it with one notch added onto the infotainment system, in other words the bass EQ. I felt excited both at the front and rear of the cabin. Indeed, over here, R&B tracks or for example DnB and EDM really came to fruition. However, the same couldn't be really said about its mids. It felt a little bit recessed and pushed back. So much so that both male and female vocals just felt pushed too far at the background, and therefore meant that I wasn't quite able to engage with the music that I was listening to, at least depending on to which sort of music genre you go for. I just felt here that vocal tracks just felt a little bit subdued. Nonetheless, over here, the highs do extend pretty well at the front of the cabin and even at the rear, and even with a few notches added to the treble EQ, it gives you a bit more of that toe tapping feeling and that zingy nature at the top end. Now, my biggest complaint, however, is when it comes to the overall soundstage. Here I felt that it was a little bit too unidirectional, and that is when I had the balance and fader set at the center position. However, if I did take it a few notches back, I felt that the overall soundstage was positively affected. In other words, I was getting a bit more of that enriching experience. However, it is worth considering that this does severely affect the mids, which are already pushed back, and so much so that I felt that the overall sound was a bit too drowned out. So as a result, I just had to accept that there was a bit more of a unidirectional sound in its center position and a bit more of a reference sound, and therefore one that was actually a bit more pleasurable to my ears. Now, on the whole, what I will say is that the Harman Kardon audio system that's found within the Solterra is certainly a worthwhile upgrade over the stock 6-speaker system, and as a result, it gets our Approved Audio Award. However, it doesn't quite compete with some of the more premium alternatives out there on the market, and as a result, if you are a bit of an audiophile and you're looking for an all-electric SUV, do consider some of the alternatives that I found down in the description below. Now, I'd be curious to know what you make of the Solterra's audio system, be it the 6 or 8 or 11 speaker system, of course, plus subwoofer, down in the comment section below. And of course, if you've liked this independent detailed review, definitely do consider dropping a like, subscribing and hitting that bell notification, all of which would be greatly appreciated. As such, I've been Chris from TotallyEV, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.